Stop letting other people's opinions control your life. You don't even realize how many of your decisions, how many of your dreams, how many of your moves have been shaped by voices that don't even live your life. You've been shrinking yourself so people won't judge you. You've been dimming your light so people won't feel threatened. You've been hesitating on your dreams because someone else might not understand them. And somewhere in that process, you forgot the most important truth. This is your life. Not theirs, not the critics, not the doubters, not the ones who only cheer when it's convenient. Yours. You've spent years trying to fit into a mold you were never designed for. You dress a certain way because you're afraid someone will talk. You pick a career because your family might approve more. You hide your real talents because someone once told you they weren't practical. You want to take risks, but you keep hearing the voices from your past saying, "Who do you think you are?" You want to grow, but you're scared someone you care about won't like the new version of you. You're letting the fear of their reaction paralyze your purpose. Some of you stopped dreaming big because the moment you did, somebody laughed. Somebody told you it was unrealistic. Somebody told you to be more realistic, more safe, more normal. And instead of questioning them, you started questioning yourself. You gave away the steering wheel of your life without even noticing. And the saddest part, most of the people you're trying so hard to please aren't even happy with their own lives. They don't know purpose. They don't know fulfillment. They don't know what it means to wake up every day driven by something bigger than fear. Yet you're letting their fear set your limits. You weren't born to live your life as a shadow of somebody else's expectations. You weren't put here to play small so someone else can feel comfortable. You weren't put here to mute your voice so someone else's opinion can be louder. You weren't put here to live for applause. You were put here to live for meaning, for growth, for purpose, for a calling that is attached to your name, not theirs. And let's be real, some of the people whose approval you're chasing wouldn't clap for you even if you did everything perfectly. Not because they don't see your greatness, but because your greatness reminds them of what they're not doing with their own life. That's why you can't let their silence stop you. That's why you can't let their doubts become your limits. Their insecurity has nothing to do with your destiny. And think about how much time you've wasted trying to impress people who don't even think about you when they go home. People who are so wrapped up in their own problems that they barely notice your effort. Yet you let their potential judgment dictate your decisions. You silence your passion because you don't want to be misunderstood. You hide your goals because you don't want to be laughed at. You stay stuck because you don't want to be uncomfortable. But listen, you're already uncomfortable being someone you're not. You're already drained pretending. You're already exhausted carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. So why continue living like that? Why keep suffocating your own soul to breathe life into someone else's opinion? There comes a moment when you have to say enough. Enough of trying to impress people who don't care. Enough of letting their voices drown out your own. Enough of putting your potential on pause because someone else doesn't get it. You have to reach a point where your desire for purpose becomes louder than your fear of judgment, where your need to grow becomes stronger than your need to be liked. Because being liked can fade, being accepted can change, but being true to yourself, that's permanent. That's freedom. And let me tell you something powerful. The moment you start living for yourself, the right people will show up. The ones who support your growth, the ones who respect your boundaries, the ones who clap not because they want something from you, but because they want to see you win. You will lose people. Yes, but you will gain yourself. You will gain clarity. You will gain peace. And nothing is more valuable than peace of mind. You owe it to yourself to stop seeking permission to be who you already are. You owe it to yourself to walk boldly in the direction of your truth. You owe it to yourself to honor your own voice more than the noise around you. You owe it to yourself to choose the path that aligns with your soul, not the one that satisfies other people's comfort zones. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authenticity. It needs your fire. It needs your vision. When you finally decide to stop living for others, everything in your life shifts. Your confidence grows. Your inner voice gets louder. Your decisions get clearer. You stop asking, will they approve? And start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? And that shift, that one powerful shift, is what turns an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Because the truth is simple, the moment you stop living for them, you start living for you. You ever get tired of chasing applause, chasing people's approval like it's some kind of fuel? Too many of us live our lives like we're auditioning every day, constantly looking for someone to say, good job. I'm proud of you. You matter. But here's the hard truth. Your value isn't measured by who claps for you, not by how many likes you get, not by how many people tell you you're doing great. Because if your worth depends on their validation, then their silence becomes your prison. You'll never truly live free until you learn to measure your own value. People out there will cheer for you when it's easy. They'll celebrate when you succeed, but when things get real, when you fall down, when you stumble, many of them won't even show up. Some of them don't have the strength to watch you struggle. Others are too focused on their own life to lift you when you need it most. That's why basing your worth on their applause is dangerous. Applause is fickle, it fades, it disappears. And if that's what you're building your foundation on, you're building on sand. Think about every time you held back a dream because you worried what someone else would think. Think about the vision in your heart that felt too big for the small minds around you. Think about how often you said maybe later because you didn't want to face criticism or misunderstanding. You set your destiny based on their comfort, not your calling. You changed your voice so you wouldn't rub them wrong. You changed your goals so you wouldn't make them uncomfortable. And in doing that, you built a version of yourself for them, not for you. Your dream, your calling, your purpose, those things deserve more than someone else's approval. Because there is purpose in your pain. There is vision in your struggle. There is greatness inside of you that isn't just for you to feel good, it's for you to live for, to build with, to fight for. But if you rely on other people to give you permission to be great, you're giving away your power. You're giving away the opportunity to define your own life. If you always wait for someone to cheer you on, you'll never run the race the way you were meant to run it. I know it's scary to think. What if nobody believes in me? What if they ignore me? What if they doubt me? But here's something to lean into. People who truly matter in your life will support you not because they know how to clap, but because they know how to hold you when you can't stand. And those people don't need you to be perfect to love you. They see your value not in your spotlight moments, but in your quiet moments. They don't need your win to validate you. They validate your journey just by being there. You must decide today that your value is not negotiable based on other people's opinions. You're not playing for their scoreboard. You're playing for your destiny. Every time you do something risky, every time you chase a dream that scares you, every time you stay true to who you are regardless of what anybody else thinks, that's a demonstration of your worth. That's how you honor yourself. That's how you gain your own respect. Yes, silence might follow. Yes, some people will be confused or even upset. Yes, some doors will close. That's okay, because the people who open when you're living authentically are the ones you need. The people who only show up when you fit in aren't worth the energy. Your circle doesn't need to be big. It needs to be honest. It needs to be real. It needs to be people who see the real you, who support the real you, who believe in the real you, not the version you think others expect you to be. Here's what happens when you stop living for their applause. You unlock freedom, you become fearless, because when your value is internal, external voices can't shake you. When your self-worth comes from within, you don't need a stage, you just need purpose. You show up because you believe in the mission, not because you want a reaction. You make decisions because they align with your vision, not because they impress someone else. You will fail. You will get things wrong. You will face criticism, but that's part of your growth. It's part of becoming the person you were born to be. You can't control how people respond, but you can control how you respond to them. You can choose to keep pushing even when nobody cheers. You can choose to keep building even when nobody understands. You can choose to keep believing even when nobody else does. So today decide, I am worth more than someone else's approval. I am more than their applause. I am defined by my values, my grit, my purpose, not by how they react to me. When you believe that, something unstoppable is born inside of you. You live on your own terms, and that is how you truly become free. Your value is not measured by who claps for you. There comes a moment in your life when you have to stop living as a passenger in your own story. You have to grab the wheel, take control, and decide that your voice matters just as much as the voices around you. Too many people are exhausted, drained, and resentful, not because they're weak, but because they've been living on autopilot, running around trying to keep everybody else happy, while silently abandoning themselves. They don't even realize how much of their own life they've sacrificed because they've gotten so used to putting everyone else first. And the truth is, you can't build a life you love if you never make space for yourself inside of it. There are people right now who have convinced themselves they don't deserve rest. They don't deserve boundaries. They don't deserve peace. They'll say yes when everything in them is screaming no. They'll volunteer for things they don't have the capacity for. They'll give money, time, energy, emotional support until they have nothing left to give. And then they'll wonder why they feel empty, why they feel frustrated, why every day feels heavier than the last. They think being selfless means disappearing. They think being kind means overextending. They think being loved means being available 24/7. But that's not love. That's self-neglect dressed up as responsibility. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't lift others if you're barely standing. You can't keep giving pieces of yourself away and expect to feel whole at the end of the day. Self-care is not selfish. It's the foundation that keeps you grounded. And the people who genuinely care about you will understand when you say, I need space, I need rest, or I can't do that right now. The ones who get angry when you set boundaries were only benefiting from your lack of them. You have to give yourself permission to prioritize your own growth, your own healing, your own peace. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Nobody is coming into your life to rescue you from burnout. Nobody is going to show up and say, hey, you've been giving too much, let me fix that. People will keep taking as long as you keep giving. Not because they're evil, but because that's the role you trained them to expect. And the moment you start choosing yourself, some of them are going to be uncomfortable. They might call you selfish. They might say you've changed. But you have to be okay with that, because growth always offends the people who were benefiting from your old version. Choosing yourself means finally listening to that inner voice you've ignored for years, the one that says you're tired, the one that begs you to slow down, the one that wants something different, something deeper, something real. It means stopping long enough to check in with your own needs, your mental health, your dreams, your capacity. It means understanding that you are not responsible for carrying everyone's expectations on your back. The weight you feel isn't life. It's the pressure of trying to be everything to everyone. You don't exist to be their hero. You don't exist to fix their problems. You don't exist to be their emotional punching bag, their rescuer, their safety net. You can love people deeply without sacrificing yourself in the process. You can support people without abandoning your own goals. You can care about people while still protecting your energy. That is not selfish, that is survival. And let's be real, when you finally take a step back and start taking care of yourself, life gets clearer. Your mind settles, your body stops fighting, your spirit stops drowning. You begin to hear yourself again. You begin to see where you're going again, but God was filling you. Because clarity comes when you stop running from yourself and start returning to yourself. You have to understand that your peace is priceless, your time is precious, your mental health is not negotiable. You deserve space to recharge. You deserve relationships where love flows both ways. You deserve boundaries that protect your heart. You deserve moments that allow you to breathe. And you deserve a life that feels like it belongs to you, not one that feels like a debt you owe to everyone around you. When you choose yourself, you begin restoring the parts of you that were worn out by years of pleasing, fixing, and overgiving. You begin rebuilding a relationship with yourself. You begin trusting your own voice again. And trust is powerful because once you trust yourself, nobody can manipulate you, guilt trip you, or control you the way they used to. You move stronger, you move wiser, you move with purpose. And the moment you start prioritizing your peace, you'll realize something important. The world doesn't fall apart when you say no. People don't collapse when you take a day for yourself. Life keeps moving. And the only thing that actually changes is that you finally get to breathe. You become more alive, more centered, more human. And when you show up from that place whole, balanced, grounded, you offer the world a version of you that's healthier, stronger, more intentional. You give from overflow instead of emptiness. You love from abundance instead of exhaustion. You live from truth instead of obligation. Because in the end, choosing yourself isn't abandoning anyone. It's returning to the person you were always meant to be. Here is the truth you cannot avoid. You cannot live for yourself if you never make space for yourself. There comes a point in your life when you realize that living for others is not just exhausting, it's dangerous. Not because people are bad, but because people will build their comfort on your sacrifice if you let them. And if you're not careful, you will wake up one day and realize you've invested years into making everyone else feel good while you quietly fell apart inside. You've spent your life being what they needed, what they asked for, what they expected while ignoring the person you were created to be. And that's the moment where you have to stop, breathe, and ask yourself a real question. What do I actually want for me? You want to talk about pressure? Let me tell you something. There is nothing heavier than the weight of trying to live up to standards that were never yours to begin with. Some of you chase careers you don't care about, relationships that drain you, lifestyles that don't even feel like your own, all because you're afraid of disappointing someone, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being judged, afraid of being talked about, and that fear controls you more than any circumstance ever could. But here's the truth nobody tells you. No matter how perfectly you try to live for them, somebody will still disapprove. Somebody will still criticize. Somebody will still have something to say. So if you're going to be talked about anyway, you might as well be talked about while living a life that's yours. A life that reflects who you are, not who they want you to be. There's a moment when you finally understand that people's opinions don't pay your bills. Their approval doesn't heal your soul. Their validation doesn't build your future. Their expectations don't create your purpose. So why are you giving them so much power? Why are you letting their voices speak louder than your own? Stop letting people who don't live your life tell you how to live your life. You have to reach a place where your identity is no longer negotiable, where your choices are not up for public debate, where your dreams are not open for approval. Because when your sense of self belongs to the world will shape it into whatever is most convenient for them. And you'll lose yourself in that process without even realizing it. Some of you have been living in the shadows of other people's opinions for so long that sunlight feels unfamiliar. Standing up for yourself feels uncomfortable. Saying no feels rude. Asking for what you want feels selfish. That's not your personality, that's conditioning. That's what happens when you've been trained to put everyone else above yourself for years. But listen to me, you cannot spend the rest of your life apologizing for existing. You cannot keep shrinking yourself just to make others more comfortable. You cannot continue erasing yourself to fit inside a box that was never made for you. At some point, you have to break out. You have to reclaim your voice. You have to remind yourself that your life is not a performance, it's a journey. It's not a stage built for applause. It's a path built for growth, and growth requires authenticity. Growth requires honesty. Growth requires making decisions that other people may not understand, but they don't need to understand. It's not their life. When you live for yourself, you stop chasing temporary applause and start building long-term purpose. You stop trying to impress people and start trying to become the best version of yourself. You stop basing your worth on their approval and start grounding it in your own truth. And when that happens, everything changes. Your energy, your confidence, your direction, your peace. Living for yourself doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you become cold or selfish or disconnected. It means you finally recognize that you matter too. Your dreams matter, your happiness matters, your health matters, your future matters, and if you don't protect those things, nobody else will. You can love people deeply without sacrificing yourself in the process. You can show up for the world without abandoning your own heart. You can be kind, supportive, generous, while still having boundaries, standards, and a life that reflects your own desires. That balance is the difference between living free and living trapped. And trust me, when you start living for yourself, the right people will stay. The people who love you for real will clap even when your choices don't benefit them. They'll support you even when it means you have less time for them. They'll cheer for you even when your growth outpaces their comfort. Those are your people. The ones who get angry, guilt, trip you, or try to pull you back. Those are the people who love the version of you that wasn't free. You owe it to yourself to build a life that feels like yours. You owe it to yourself to explore your gifts, your passions, your purpose. You owe it to yourself to step into the identity you've been suppressing for years. Because life gets beautiful when you stop performing and start living. Life gets peaceful when you stop pretending and start being. Life gets powerful when you stop seeking approval and start seeking alignment. And you will never regret choosing yourself, not once, not ever, because at the end of your life, it won't be their opinions that matter, it'll be whether you live the life you were meant to live. If you want to live free, you have to stop apologizing for who you are.